10 years ago, some scientists and military folk got to meddling in things they ought to have left alone. They called it a rift or something. Now the whole damn Earth is mostly empty, and she's about to breathe her last breath. I don't reckon I know exactly what's causing all this, but I know what I've seen and heard since then, and I think at this point I'm probably the only fellow around anymore who cares to do anything about it. See, after the rift was sparked, things everywhere started getting strange. There were a few reports, and I guess the government stepped in, so we heard nothing. We were all just dying and somehow didn't notice. Some of us snapped out of it, but most everyone's gone at this point, and I figure I haven't seen anyone but Bounder for months now. I guess the thing causing all this ain't got much else to feed on, because even the feeders I've seen wander around are dopey. They're skinny, hardly even alive anymore. 10 years. I figured now's a good time for me and Bounder to see if we can't find a way to shut down the rift. Maybe it's not too late for Earth. Maybe she's got some fight left in her.
My name is Barry Collins. I'm a game developer. I've been doing this for 14 years professionally and much longer just for fun. My heart and soul is really in the idea of telling the games that are in my head and not continually for the rest of my life telling everybody else's stories. The money raised will allow me to afford a Unity 3D license and to outsource some aspects of development such as the music, some of the art, some of the voiceovers, the sound effects, and some of the programming that I don't have the expertise to do myself. The flashlight on the dog. I ended up finding this at an antique store the other day. It's like the identical one. Earth at this point is barely recognizable. It's twisted and it's all rubble and there's barely anything left. All around you are the barely recognizable, still live husks of what used to be men, known as feeders. At one point, they were bloated and massive, and now, since there's nothing left to feed on, they're wasting away. Depending on how close they are to the rift, they'll have mutated to different degrees. So expect lots of variety in shape, size, and style. I think it's going to be really cool to put people in the shoes of this man who owns a dog.
Bounder, make yourself useful. Find me some ammo.
There's a certain responsibility that comes along with that, and it's going to be neat to see how the different players respond to that. I've already seen it with some of the play testing I've done, where some people really glom onto the dog. The game is really inspired by true blue shooters like Quake 1 and even more scenic, slow-paced games like Dear Esther and Journey, Eco, and Shadow of the Colossus. The goals for Ashen Rift are simple, but they're going to require some attention to maintain that simple and delicate balance. So for starters, I really want to shy away from the standard trigger-happy gameplay of most first-person shooters right now. I really want to make guns and ammo quite sparse in the game.
Good boy.
And this is going to force the players to become resourceful and think of new methods of how to survive hostile encounters.
Damn, rockets. Bounder, don't fetch these. Stay, Bounder. Stay.
So the four major elements to interact with in this game are the world, the dog, the objects within the world, and the enemies and other non-player characters. Number one, the world. Interacting with the world will be done by means of terrain destruction, putting craters in the ground with explosives, or fracturing giant pillars of rock, sending them crumbling down on enemies, as well as the typical flicking of switches and opening of doors. Number 2, the dog. Interacting with Bounder will be done through a circle menu. The player will be able to select various commands which will then shout at Bounder, telling him to be quiet when there's enemies encountering you, telling him to stay close when you're trying to hide in a bush, etc.
Hey, Bounder. Quiet.
Number 3, objects within the world. You can either pick up objects within the world and throw them, or pick them up and place them differently to, say, set a trap, for example. Or you can pick them up and store them in a backpack. In some more creative cases, this could entail picking up a gas can, dumping out its contents, and setting it ablaze. Number 4, the enemies and non-player characters. Interacting with the enemies and non-player characters will be done either to the aim of killing them, or manipulating them, or just avoiding them altogether. The 4-way dynamic created between these elements is subtle, but full of potential.
Out of gas. Fuck. Come on, boy. Won't be too much longer. What the fuck is that? Shit! Quiet! Stay! Man, I could have used this sooner.
So on the surface, this is a game about a man and his dog in a world full of tossable objects and enemies which seek to devour you. But the world itself and the moments of interaction within will be wide open for the players to craft into their own version of what should happen. So please join Bounder and his master on their journey to discover more of what's at the root of Earth's plight. Simple things. So the reason why I decided to call the game Ashen Rift, A Man and His Dog, is because I made a prototype with a cat, and Ashen Rift, A Man and His Cat just didn't work. Didn't play well. Just took off, did its own thing. I tried to pet it, it fucking hissed at me. And then I shot it, and that was the end of the game. Oh my god.
You shot the cat?